Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General, for having us today. And as we know, 30 years ago, Azerbaijan signed the Partnership for Peace program, and the substantive cooperation between Azerbaijan and NATO started after this signing this program. And I would like you to evaluate the relation, this level of relation between the NATO and Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan is an important and valued partner for NATO for many reasons. We celebrate our 30th anniversary of our partnership this year. Azerbaijan has participated over these years in many NATO missions and operations. For many years you were present in our mission in Kosovo, KFOR, and then Azerbaijan was also very much present in Afghanistan over many years. I met Azeri soldiers in Afghanistan, and I saw their professionalism, their dedication. And Azerbaijan played, or the Azeri soldiers played a very important role, especially towards the end of the mission, protecting the embassy and protecting, the airport, helping us to evacuate more than 100,000 people out of the airport in Kabul. So the last soldiers to leave was actually Azeri soldiers, together with the US and a few others. We also welcome the important role Azerbaijan has played in many other ways to strengthen the political dialogue, the practical cooperation. And NATO has worked with Azerbaijan on many different issues for many years, and we are now looking into how we can further expand our partnership.
So what's the importance of Azerbaijan for NATO, as you mentioned that Azerbaijan and NATO cooperated in the regional security, in peacekeeping measures, and etc. And what's the importance of Azerbaijan? What is the significance of Azerbaijan?
Azerbaijan is important for NATO partly because we have the practical partnership, we have the political dialogue, but of course Azerbaijan is also important for NATO because Azerbaijan is so important for energy security. And especially since Russia started to really use gas as a tool to try to coerce NATO allies after full-scale invasion of Ukraine, it was extremely important for NATO allies in Europe to wean off Russian gas, and increased deliveries from Azerbaijan has enabled NATO allies in Europe to be independent of Russia as a gas supplier. And that was a very fast and quick process that actually went quite well, given the very difficult circumstances. And that was because of increased supplies from other countries, the United States, but not least also Azerbaijan. There is a demand now for further increasing the gas exports from roughly 12 billion cubic meters to 20, which is a significant part of Europe's gas consumption, and for some allies, gas from Azerbaijan is very important. I also welcome that work has started now on not only providing natural gas, but also exporting power through an electric cable, and direct export from Azerbaijan of power will further increase the importance of Azerbaijan as an energy supplier to Europe, to NATO allies in Europe. This is also part of the efforts of Azerbaijan to develop renewable sources of energy, wind power, offshore wind, but also solar power. And by doing so, Azerbaijan is part of the big energy transition which has to take place if we're going to be able to fight climate change. And in that context, of course, it is also important, and Azerbaijan plays an important role, hosting COP29 as the big climate conference in November this year. And I really believe and hope that COP29 here in Baku will provide us with a platform we need as an international community to make important decisions on many issues related to fighting global warming or climate change, not least climate financing, also to finance the big investments we need to conduct the big energy transition.
You also mentioned about the Azerbaijan operations in Kosovo and Afghanistan. I would like you to speak a little bit detailed about the Azerbaijan's contribution in transit, in logistics, and also military and political support of Azerbaijan in this direction.
Azerbaijan has well-trained, well-equipped forces, and I've met them and have seen how professional they are. They played a very important role especially in Afghanistan. At the airport, also the Azeri soldiers were there for many years, conducting many different tasks. But at the airport, they played a very important role in protecting the airport itself to enable the evacuation of more than 100,000 people out of Kabul and Afghanistan in the last days of our presence back in 2021. At the airport, we also had a NATO hospital, which was extremely important to provide support and health care for people at the airport, and not least the NATO or the soldiers coming from NATO allied countries. So the last things that were closed down was the airport itself, the protection of the airport, the serious soldiers, together also with Turkey, and the hospital that was run by some NATO allies. So all in all, this was extremely critical, very important. And actually one of the people in my staff, the international staff at the NATO headquarters, he was deployed to Kabul. He was at the airport helping to organize the evacuation. He was wounded, and his life was saved by Azeri soldiers who take care of him. They were there helping him. They gave him some first aid, and then they brought him to the hospital. So soldiers from Azerbaijan has been and was very critical in providing support, and in NATO we are of course very grateful for what they did over all these years, and in particular in the last weeks.
As you know, Mr. Secretary General, new realities and new situation has been created in the region last years. And what are the key issues in the agenda of the NATO in cooperation with Azerbaijan?
For us, it is very important that there is a lasting peace settlement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And I welcome the message from President Aliyev yesterday when we had a dinner and a press conference and a meeting where he stated very clearly that you are now closer to a peace agreement than ever before. There are some remaining issues that has to be solved. But I really hope that both parties, both Azerbaijan and Armenia, seize this opportunity to find and to agree a peace agreement, to establish the conditions for a lasting peace, because peace and stability in this region is of course important for the people living in this region. It's important for creating the conditions and the framework for investments for prosperity, because we know that peace and stability is a precondition for any for also economic development and economic growth. Peace and stability in this region matters for the whole for international peace and security. So it's in the interest of NATO allies to have a lasting peace. So therefore, I strongly believe that everything should be done to ensure lasting peace and security.
And this year also started very active for NATO in terms of acceptance of new member. And what are the priorities of NATO for the upcoming years, and what's the role of Caucasus in all of these priorities?
Well, in Caucasus we have several important NATO partners. So Caucasus is important for NATO because it matters for Euro-Atlantic security, and NATO is eager to further develop the partnership with the countries in the Caucasus. Of course, Georgia is in a special position because Georgia has applied for NATO membership. NATO has also stated several times that Georgia will become a NATO member. Then, of course, Caucasus is also close to, not so far from at least, Ukraine, where there's a full-fledged war of aggression by Russia. That matters for the whole of Europe, it matters for Caucasus. If President Putin wins in Ukraine, it's not only a tragedy for the Ukrainians, it's also dangerous for all of us, including Azerbaijan and NATO allies. Because then the message to President Putin is that when he uses military force, he gets what he wants. So he will then see that blatant violation of international law, invading another country, will pay off, and that will reduce the threshold for any future use of force. And therefore it is in our interest, in the interest of NATO allies, of Azerbaijan and many other countries around the world, to prevent President Putin from winning. I welcome the support that Azerbaijan has provided to Ukraine, humanitarian support, but also demining equipment. I think it's also very important that we have economic sanctions imposed against Russia, because they have to pay a price for violating international law, for invading another country.
And my last question, a lot of programs has been implemented to align Azerbaijan armed forces to NATO standards. Are there any plans for the future?
Yes, absolutely. We are now in the process of agreeing a new framework, and that framework will focus on issues like interoperability, which is exactly how to ensure that the armed forces of Azerbaijan can work together, meet NATO standards, and are fully interoperable with NATO forces. We'll also focus on, for instance, military education, which will also increase interoperability between our forces. And we'll look into other areas where we can further deepen our cooperation, and all of this will bring NATO forces and Azeri forces closer to each other, which I think will be of mutual benefit both for Azerbaijan and NATO allies.